Birdwatching in real life is a fun and relaxing hobby, and over time you start to learn the local species and you can identify them more quickly. But thanks to the internet, there's a new way to go birding. That is going birding in cyberspace. Let's find out what that is. Birding online is a great hobby for when it's night or when it's raining outside or when you just don't want to go out. You're going to go to a photo library online. We'll be using Pixabay because it has a great selection of images, but it does not have great identification of those images, and we are looking for unidentified bird photographs. We start on page 1 of a search for the term bird, but page 1 is actually pretty well identified, so let's just jump to a random page, page 170, and see what we have. So there's a merganser, this is a bullfinch, and you can see it says right there it's a bullfinch. Gulls are not fun to identify. This is a yellow-crested cockatoo, a mallard duck, cardinal, another downy woodpecker. That might be an interesting one. Okay, we're going to try to identify this bird. This bird looks a lot like a nuthatch, just based on its general body shape, and I only know that because I've done this enough times that it's like you're looking at a bird on the side of a tree that's hanging on vertically. That's something that nuthatches do, and that slightly upward pointing beak, that's a nuthatch type of beak. Just in a general Google image search, I typed in nuthatch, bird on side of tree, and a band on its eye. A nuthatch, band on eye. Okay. Alright, got it. That was enough that it got me a list of similar looking species. I picked through those until I got one that was visually similar, and that is the red-breasted nuthatch. So now I go back and search for red-breasted nuthatch, and voila! We have identified our species. There are almost certainly subtleties here, and it's very likely that I'll misidentify them, but this is the kind of birding that I like to do. Other people who like to be more technically specific, you can look for the number of feathers on each side or whatever field marks you're using, but for general bird identification, I'm going to say red-breasted nuthatch is good enough for me. So we've identified our species, and what the nice thing to do at this point is go down to the comments, Red-Breasted Nuthatch, thanks for sharing this great photo, because seriously, it's so nice of them to have taken that photo and shared it for free with us. So the next person who comes through and finds this particular photo, they can go through all that trouble of looking themselves, or they can just go down to the comments and they've got at least a guideline to start their search with red-breasted nuthatch from my comment. And if you're really curious, you can look up more information about the particular species you've identified. In this case, it lives in the same area I do, so I could potentially see this exact species where I live right now. If I ever do see it, I'll be able to identify it a little bit quicker. That's not always true with internet birding because you are looking at photos from literally around the world. So you're going to get a good general sense of what different types of birds look like, but not necessarily the ones that are right outside your door. If I had to recommend one or the other, I would recommend outdoor birding, but this is an interesting counterpart to outdoor birding because it lets you explore other parts of the world basically for free, and it also lets you practice your general bird identification skills. That's one species down. Let's see what else we can identify. I found this photo, and it's a sunbird. You can tell by the curved beak shape. It's a nectar-drinking bird. That I've actually done a video about it in the past, so I know what sunbird beaks look like. If I didn't know, the tags are right up here. This is a female sunbird, but in the tags it doesn't say what specific type of sunbird it is, and there's nothing in the comments to indicate that either. So let's try to identify our female sunbird and see what type of species it is within the sunbird group. Okay, so I did a Google search for a female sunbird. I found one that looked visually similar, and that is the olive-backed sunbird. So I did a second search for olive-backed sunbird, and here's what we've got. We've got very similar markings. For my style of birding, this is good enough for an identification, so we'll call this an olive-backed sunbird. So I say, olive-backed sunbird, thanks for sharing your bird experience. Okay, and based on a quick search, this is a species that's native to China and Southeastern Asia. So this is why I don't know this species just by looking at it, is because it doesn't live anywhere near where I live. But that's kind of the fun of digital birding, is you can find a bird from anywhere on Earth. Okay, let's find one more for good measure. So African spoonbill, according to the tags, and green. It's some kind of finch for sure, but it says it's a green finch. I want to know what this one is, this black one with the yellow eye ring. The tags aren't helpful. It's a vertebrate, apparently, like all other birds are, and there's a comment in German, so that might be a helpful comment, or it might just be thanking the photographer. Okay, it looks a little bit like a starling, but it's got that black color and that pretty yellow eye ring, so let's image search that and see how it goes. Typing black starling with a yellow eye ring into an image search gets you the Eurasian blackbird, which is very similar. Like, it's got a yellow eye ring for sure, and it is a black bird, but it's not the same bird. Okay, so this is a great example. Let's do a little bit more digging. So this person has uploaded other images and they have a profile. So let's use our detective skills and see if we can find out where this person is. They're living in Tehran, in Iran. Okay. So let's find out if the fact that the photographer lives in Iran gives us some additional clues as to what the bird is. Alright, so I've got a pretty good lead now. This is some kind of myna or related species. Yes! So connecting it to Iran is what got it, because this is a common myna. This is what a common myna looks like. You can see it's got that yellow eye ring that kind of connects up into the beak. We've got the same thing here, same body colors, grayish body, black head. And the reason it looks like a starling is because mynas are in the group that starlings are in, called Sternidae. So that is almost conclusive. And then if you look at the range map for common mynas, it goes just a tiny bit over into where Iran is. So that is good enough for me. We have identified, not just using the bird field marks, but using the digital metadata that's associated with the image, the profile of the poster, the tags that are in it, the comments that are on it. We used our detective skills and we identified a species from a totally other part of the world. So we've identified 3 species, one from North America, one from Southern Asia, and one from the Middle East, all in just a few minutes. And that is what digital birding is all about. It's about the thrill of discovering new species, seeing birds that you've never ever seen before in your entire life. And honestly, you might not ever see them again, but it is so cool to use those skills to learn more about birds. So, I hope to see your comments out there in the comments section of bird images online, that you'll be identifying birds digitally on those photo libraries. And it's worth mentioning that if you want to just look at photos from around the world of birds that are correctly identified, there's a thing called the Macaulay Library. I'll link it down in the description. And that is a great resource, just hundreds or thousands of identified images, including their geodata, who took the photo, when it was taken. And it's a really high quality resource if you want to just browse through birds that are online and identified. But if you want to identify your own, here's how you do it. Digital birding. It's kind of like a video game, but at the end of the day, you have real skills. Your own bird identification skills have increased, and you have helped some other people in the world to identify their species. I hope you learned something new in this video. Subscribe before you go so you'll know when future videos come out. Thanks for stopping by this week to learn what makes life awesome.